laws, even though it's also dairy. But when it comes to the making of cheese, there is the concern that maybe there'll be, thank you, an or kivas nevela used. Maybe there'll be the stomach of a nevela, of a non-shechted animal, is going to be used for the enzyme properties. They're going to be used to turn the milk into cheese, right? It'll be like the start of the culture. And then it would render the cheese not kosher. So in order to mitigate that concern, they said that cheese that requires a culture has to be done in the presence of a yid. There's a machlokas in halacha whether a yid actually is required to actually put the ren inside the cheese. That's the opinion of the shach. They have to actually put the ren inside the cheese, or it's enough just to witness it. The Ramah writes it's enough to witness it, I believe. Anyway, let's look at this inside. By the way, we're going to get into a very fascinating discussion, but I cannot hold my thunder, so I have to share it now. There's a discussion brought down in halacha. So even if they would use a non-kosher rennet in the making of the cheese, the amount of rennet necessary to turn a vat of milk the size of this room into cheese is the size of this tissue box or smaller. So it's nullified in the thousands, parts per thousand. So even if you had non-kosher rennet used, can we say the principle is going to be nullified 1 in 60? That's the question that's raised. And the answer, in short, is that the principles that govern the laws of nullification have certain requirements that have to be met, certain stipulations. And one of those is that the thing that we're saying is nullified cannot have an active presence anymore. Has to be truly nullified. You can't see it anymore. It doesn't show any not showing any active presence. But when it comes to something like a culture, whose primary function is to take a liquid substance and turn it into a solid, actually change its form, we cannot apply the terms of nullification because its effect is lingering. It took a liquid substance and made it into solid. It's very much alive and well. So therefore, we wouldn't say the laws of nullification. And therefore, if the ren indeed was not kosher, it would render the entire vat of cheese not kosher and be problematic. By the way, also, yesterday's chitas, I believe it was, speaks about the Korban Pesach. And as you know, I have this tendency to tell stories, but there's a story that literally speaks about that pasuk in the Chumash that relates to cheese. So I feel like I must share the story because it connects to our subject matter at hand, and it also connects with the chitas of this week, and therefore we're going to share it. There was a great Torah scholar in the 1800s known as the Chida, Rav Chaim Yosef Dov Razaloi, the Svardish Rav and a Makubal and a Tzaddik. He was also, I believe, he did business as well. He traveled extensively. I believe he wrote 83 Svardim, 84 Svardim, Kimisper Shneis Chayev, corresponding to the years that he lived. I have one or two of his Svardim in my house. Anyway, so the Chida was traveling from Eretz Yisrael. We're on page 85. We're traveling from Eretz Yisrael to Italy. He lived in Italy. So there was a merchant who had a whole load of cheese that was non-kosher, that wanted the Chida to write a letter to basically endorse the cheese as kosher. So he colluded with the captain, and basically they threatened the Chida that if you don't write this letter that the cheese is kosher, they'll throw you overboard. So his life was in danger. So he writes this letter that the cheese is kosher, and he writes the whole, like a proper Hebrew terminology. But it's the norm that when a Rav writes such a letter, he's going to quote from the pasuk of the Chumash of that week. So he takes a pasuk. He took the pasuk of Kocha Yeichlu Oisai, referring to the Korban Pesach. So shall you eat it. Masneichem Kol Gurim. Its lion should be girded, meaning tied down. Chatzeichon you asirin. Chatzeichon. If you look at the Targum in Onkelos, Chatzeichon also means cheese. Chatzeichon you asirin means your cheese should be aser. Is aser. So he took this pasuk and he wrote at the end of the pasuk Shin Mem Leparsha Shin Mem Vav Tav, which looks like Shemais, but the Rav on the receiving end of this letter saw something fishy. He said this pasuk is coming from Parshas Boy, and the Rav, the Chida is certainly not going to mistakenly think it's coming in Parshas Shemais. Then he realized Shin Mem Vav Tav stands for Shnayim Mikra Vecha Targum. I have to look at the Targum, the Onkelos of this pasuk, and he sees Chatzeichen Yasir, and your cheese is awesome. And then they were able to bust these unscrupulous merchants, and they said about the Chidar, Baruch Shanasam Chachmas Lireya, blessed God, who endowed his wisdom to those that fear him. Anyway, so in the times of the Chidar, he also had to face these challenges. I'm sure many other challenges, but the story about cheese. So now we're going to go inside. Halacha Aleph. Gvinas Akum Asorim Chachmeinu Zechreinu Uvracha. Cheese that was made by a non-Jew, the rabbi said it's prohibited. We're on page Pehei. Even though we said that milk from a non-kosher animal cannot curd, right? That's why butter cannot turn into butter. So we seem to have empirical proof that there was no non-kosher milk mixed into this cheese. Also givina sakim. Why would givina sakim be asur? Harbe Talmud is partial b'Talmud. Many reasons were given in the Talmud. The das Reiv Harishonim, according to most of the Rishonim, Hatama Yikari. The main reason who mipnei should be mechach me'Mishnah. The times of the Chacham of the Mishnah, Yohan Nochrim, the non-Jews ma'amidim as givina seim bar hakeva shal nevela. They would have their cheese set and made through the use of a keva, a stomach lining of a nevela, of an animal that wasn't shechted. They would put inside the milk ketzas me'er hakeva, a little bit of the skin of the stomach of the lining of the stomach. Because the enzyme, I think it's called the enzymic properties, or the enzymes inside the that stomach lining, they activate with the milk and they turn into cheese. The keva shel behemas nachrim in nevela. The keva of a behemoth of a nachrim, a non-Jew, is a nevela. Ki shchitos nevela, because the non-Jews don't shech their animals according to Torah law. They don't have to. Therefore, it would be a nevela. Afim yamin hanochri is kvinoisa v'chaymer achar mot. Even if we know for a fact that the non-Jew in this case didn't do that. They took kosher rennet, or they used vegetarian rennet. It should be seemingly fine. Mikolmoke magvina asur is still nonetheless the cheese is asur. Shekvar gozer chazal, because the rabbis already made a prohibition. I'll call gvina say on older cheeses mechashash, out of concern. Shemanas why they kevas nevela. Maybe it was made through the kevas nevela, the skin of the stomach of an nevela. Now halacha beis gets into the question that I already preempted. So what, even if it happened, you have much greater amount of permissible material against it. So why don't we employ the concept and the principle of nullification of greater than 1 in 60? Less than 1 in 60, I should say. Because you're going to have the forbidden amount is much less than 1 in 60. Less, like 1 in thousands. Yesh lishlo, we can ask the question. What did you put inside the cheese? Only a tiny bit of this stomach lining. It's nullified in the majority, in its minority. Why should it be asa? Truly, the answer is nonetheless, the stomach lining of the animal that makes the cheese, is something that actually makes it stand. It changes its properties from liquid state to solid state. Yeah. In America, it's not common. In Europe, you could use rennet from an animal rennet. Yeah, most rennet in America, I believe, is vegetable rennet, but it does happen. Yeah. So it's a davra mayim, something that makes something stand. So the principle of nullification is not applicable by a davra mayim. We can ask another question now. So why were the rabbis only concerned? Why were they only preoccupied with the situation of Arkevas Nevela, of the stomach lining of a nevela, of an animal that was not shechted? Even if you were to take the stomach lining of an animal that was shechted, yes, and it's meat, yesh kan tarivis b'tzim chalav. We now have a mixture of milk and meat, and that should therefore make the cheese prohibited. Im kain gam gvinas yisrael, so therefore also cheese from a Jew should be also. Tertzu harishenim. Now we turn to the top of page Pevav. The Rishenim give an answer. Kilulei chashash yitu nevelo. If not for the chashash, the concern of an isu nevelo, lo yihoyu oisum gvinas akum. The rabbis would not prohibit gvinas akum. Why? Kima she'in davar hamayim bottle. This that we say a davar hamayim. That something that's going to make something turn from a liquid state to a solid state is not bottled, not nullified. Hainu davar hamayim shudvar iser. Only when the property that's making something stand itself is inherently forbidden. But when it comes to basar b'cholav, milk and meat by themselves is permissible. You probably had milk for breakfast this morning, and you might have meat for dinner tonight, 6 hours later. So there's nothing wrong with having them. It's just that the mixture of the two creates a new entity known as basar b'cholav, which is prohibited. So basar b'cholav ein nasad var isur ad sheyitn tam zabazah. But basar b'cholav only comes prohibited when there's an activity that's going to generate an exchange of taste, when there's a bond. That explains why. When it comes to an animal that was shechted and the usage of its stomach lining from a kosher animal, because the meat portion of this piece, yes, this little piece, small the size of this tissue box, becomes nullified before it has the opportunity to give taste to the milk. Does that make sense? Let me just explain. I'll take the question in a moment. Let me just explain this a little further. So in other words, like this, the principles of basar b'cholav say the following. We're not allowed to take milk and meat, and they cannot marry, they cannot bond. But if I take a tiny bit of meat and I put it into a sea of milk, it gets nullified, its taste gets nullified before it can even have an entity. It's swallowed up. It's lost. And therefore, we won't have a problem of basar b'cholav, and we don't have the problem of the davar maimed because it's not iser, because it's going to be nullified. The taste will be nullified. Whereas when it comes to the behemoth, when the keva that's not shkota, of the nevela, there we do have a problem, because before it even comes in contact with the milk, it already has shem iser. It's already called forbidden material. Just like we say that labeling is disabling, in Allah it already has a status. So its status is forbidden. It's going to now affect whatever it comes into contact with. Basically, in order to understand this even in a more crystal clear way, basar b'cholav is the creation of something new. It's the bond of the milk and the meat. Because we have so much milk in this vat, it's going to overpower the taste of the meat and it won't allow it to create something new. Yes, any questions?
Yeah. Basically, there's different hours you have to wait between milk and meat.
Yeah.
How come some before we starting with the public, there's wait like less hours,
The Gemara says Marukva, it's a Gemara called Marukva Kiochal Basar. He wouldn't have Givina and dairy until Suda Acheres, till another meal. So first of all, we have a law that you cannot have milk and meat in the same meal. You have to bench in between. But the question is, how much waiting time is the requisite waiting time? There are different opinions about this. In the Rishonim, you find sometimes in the Gemara. The accepted opinion in most communities is to wait the full 6 hours, unless a person has specifically accustomed to wait less than that. There are some German Jews and some Dutch Jews that have a custom of waiting 3 hours or 1 hour only after meat before having dairy. There are also some Sanza Hasidim, I think the Sanza Hasidim, I believe, they wait into the 6 hour, like 5.5 plus.
because their rabbi said that they're on this way. Like
There are opinions like this.
It's such a weird opinion says meaning for these hours because it is something very separate. And like as you said, like it's very like important that these are not.
It's very important. No, for sure we're not eating them together. But how much time you have to wait The Gemara says until another meal. So one interpretation is until you bench. Another interpretation is until the time of another meal. The times of the Gemara, they used to wait 6 hours between meals. That's how you get to the 6-hour benchmark. But so the answer is then we use the principles of how we follow with Jewish law. If you have a custom specifically from your family generation passed down to wait only 3 hours, then you're not doing an Aveda, that's your custom. But if you don't have a custom, then you have to follow the majority, which is to wait the 6 hours, unless a person comes from a community where they wait 5.5 hours plus, depending on their custom.
About like you were saying that it's okay to take from the stomach enzyme from like a kosher animal that's shot there because it doesn't get
Yes.
alcoholic. This is also why like you remember last year girls asking like how can we even take like kosher meat and kosher milk from the same animal? How does that, and the rabbi was explaining that like how like when it's milk, there's like when it only like the milk pertains to status of milk, not meat from the cow or something. Like, is it connected to me?
It's somewhat connected. You're not allowed to cook them together. But the basic idea is in halacha, when you mix them together, you're creating a new entity.
Okay.
As a separate entities, it's not a problem to have them.
Even living the same animal, obviously. they're
Yeah,
separate.
but the separate entities, you're not allowed to create a new entity known as basar b'challah. By the way, for those of you that like to shop in Trader Joe's, I assume some of you have been there before. It's a great store, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, I'll tell you a little known secret. For those that have a vehicle, a car, there's a Trader Joe's, I think it's on Kent Street. It's near Williamsburg. That's a block away from the water. So they have an underground parking lot, and Brooklyn parking is very chashuv. And they let you park there if you're going to shop. And once you're ready to park there, you can take a walk. And you'd be right by the promenade, the water. It's nice to be there, you know, in the evening time. Anyway, okay. So why did I say Trader Joe's? Because Trader Joe's sometimes carries this Kol Yisrael latkes under the okay. And I believe that particular product contains cheese. I want to say the cheese is made from animal rennet, I believe. But look at the ingredients, you'll see animal rennet. Kosher animal rennet, based on this principle. So it does sometimes raise eyebrows. People only have it done, but the answer could be that. Yeah.
Have you heard about this machlokus about bovine collagen? It's
Yeah.
made out of the hide of the cow.
Right.
So is the hide of the cow part of the cow? Does the cow need to be shechted according to Jewish law? And is the hide hard? Because technically it's not the meat of the cow and it's not the milk of the cow.
So this gets into another question, but the answer in general is that the accepted approach by certifications is that first of all, it has to come from a kosher animal. We're not going to accept it from a non-kosher animal. There were some opinions that went into that discussion, but it's not an accepted view. And if it's from a shechted animal, because the collagen goes, because at least partially, maybe even mostly, because it goes through an extensive process and transformation, so you're going to get to the collagen. There are some opinions that allow the certification of that collagen to be part. Not everyone agrees with that, but if somebody needs to use it for health reasons and it's coming from a kosher shechted animal, it certainly have to rely on which are things. But Mokim Shein Cheshash, the Halacha Gimel gets into a situation. What happens if we live in a country where it's forbidden to use rennet from an animal rennet? We can only have vegetable rennet. So if that's the case, what are we concerned about? Yesh min harishonim she'etiru gvinas nachem. There are some of the Rishonim that permit gvinas nachem ki b'mekom meiseihem. In their places, lo yehoyu hanochem amidim b'arkeva. They would not set their cheese with the arkeva. There's no reason to make their cheese usher. Das very Rishonim, most Rishonim maintain shegvinas akum left to gvinas Sanhedrin. Like gvinas akum was prohibited from the Sanhedrin. Afilo hasoivim shechol akum by nesar. Even those that hold that Chol Vakum was not usher in the minyan of the Sanhedrin Commission is probably Kamishi made the name Gvinas Akum. Everyone agrees when it comes to Gvinas Akum, she's made by a non-Jew, that it's usher. I feel the bottle of Tam Sheba Avura Yasruha, even if the reason why the prohibition was made is no longer applicable. And b'koyach beis din hasheni levatel deveihen. A beis din that comes on later does not have the power to nullify their words. Elim kain gadol hu min harishon, unless it's greater, of greater stature than the first one. L'chein haminig leso gvinas akum. The custom is to prohibit gvinas akum after mokim shein mamidim b'kev, even in a place where they don't set the cheese using animal rennet. The aim lifrates gedel. One should not be lenient and permit such a thing. That's what's put down from the Rambam. Meaning, one should not be lenient and say, "Oh, we live in a place where they don't use any animal rennet, and therefore I'm going to allow rennet from a vegetable rennet." No, we should not allow that because the rabbis made a prohibition. Therefore, it applies in uniform. It applies across the board. You live in a place where they don't allow animal rennet. It's a country that makes it illegal. Or if you're on Kosher Island, as we talk about. Okay. Halacha Dal gets into what kind of certification, what kind of activity and oversight is necessary to make the cheese kosher. Yes.
I was just saying that like, even over the Shemai, you should just let a non.
We're not allowed to, no. And I also want to stress that, as I said last week, that when we have cheese, hard cheese that's kosher certified, it could be not Chol Yisrael. But even if it's not Chol Yisrael, it still needs a mashgiach tamidi to supervise the actual cheese making process. They'll be lenient when it comes to the first half of the stage of actually milking the milk. But the Rav Moshe didn't give any heter with regards to the gvina portion of it. So it has to be gvinas Yisrael, what's coming from Chol of Stam, not Chol Yisrael. So when you see the Hebrew words on a package, gvinas Yisrael cheese, it's not Chol Yisrael cheese, we still cannot have it. Has to be gvinas Yisrael nasa mechol Yisrael. Be gvinas Yisrael from Chol Yisrael. And I never said it's going to be easy. That's why we have to, we come to class here so we can understand this stuff, because otherwise it's hard to make heads or tails out of it. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. There is a cheese, I remember the whole table at Trader Joe's, like at my college, like there's a cheese that's sort of like this kind of bread, piece of bread. And I think those cheeses that it wasn't like at all.
So that would be an unacceptable standard not to have a mashgiach.
Yeah, that's how.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna ask, if you don't hold by Chalav Israel and the cheese says OUD, can you assume that there's been supervision or?
Then there would be supervision because the OU would not certify it, OU or any other reliable certification would not certify it without having a rabbi or rebbitzin supervising, making sure that the rennet is kosher and being put in, at least for Jew watching, or putting it in.
Is there a difference when you mentioned hard cheese versus soft cheese?
There is a difference, yes. I mentioned it last week, I'll just refresh my memory. Hard cheese, according to all opinions, must have a Jew supervise the putting in the rennet, or preferably actually putting it themselves. Soft cheese that could curd on its own, there are different opinions about it, and all the large national certifications are lenient, and they maintain that such a soft cheese would not require a full-time rabbi watching it because it can curd on its own. But when it comes to a hard cheese, which cannot do that, you would have to have a mashgiach meat. So just case in point, we have hard cheese plants in the Midwest that have sleeping quarters for mashgichim, and you have mashgichim that you can have 2 or 3 that live in the plant or in a caravan right outside the plant, and they stay there for weeks at a time, sometimes even over Yom Tov, because there's constant production, and you have to have mashgiach tamidi. So it is a very involved process, and does involve a significant outlay of resources and money for that. Halacha Dalid, Pikuach Yisrael, Begvinas Nochri Yimro, Yehudi Chalivas Abehemis, if the non-Jew sees the milking of the cows, Vasiyas Agvino. I'm sorry, if Yehudi, a Jew watches the milking of the cow and the making of the cheese, and he sees that he or she sees Shalini to Masech Shum Davarisa, there's no prohibited substance put inside there, it's Yiruah Harbi Poskim, many Poskim allow it, Afshi Gvina Shal Nochri, even though the Gvina belonged to a non-Jew. That's the minute. But nonetheless, that would be if the Jew actually put the rennet inside the milk. According to one opinion, but it's best that the Jew should also buy the rennet, own the rennet, and put in the rennet. or at the very least, see the rennet being put in.
It's like, say, probably going to like, are there different opinions of like what counts as like, if you overseeing it, like, if you actually be there, like, camera,
I'm going to talk about that a little bit, but I'll give you a general answer. And I also have to apologize to the audience in advance. I have to leave a few minutes early today. I'm sorry. Just cannot work around it. But the answer is that a camera system, this is a question that would be brought to world leading halachic authorities, the generation. And what they've said is that, I mean, there are different opinions, but like in Eretz Yisrael, some world leading halachic authorities were more lenient if the farm was Jewish owned and they only had kosher animals there. And a mashgiach was coming, let's say, 5 times a month, and then there was another mashgiach watching cameras. They use cameras as a tool to assist in the hashgacha process, not to take it and absolve the mashgiach of having to come, but to help the mashgiach. So certainly a camera system can be used to assist the mashgiach, but not in place of the mashgiach. To what degree will allow a camera system to assist the mashgiach will vary. But basically, the idea would be mashgiach still has to supervise it, but to give him a little bit extra layer of protection or a little bit more of a glance, we certainly the use of cameras is useful. And cameras are used in kashrut for such type of reasons. Used also in restaurants, and not in place of the mashgiach, but to help. You want to track things, to make sure no one else turned on fires, see activity in the kitchen. There are usages of such things. Halacha hey yeshe yitiru givina sanachri, there are those that permit cheese from a non-Jew im leiro Yisrael im leiro Yehudi chalivas habehemes. If the Jews did not see the milking of these animals, the following 2 things were in place. We know the non-Jew milked the cow to make from the milk cheese. For sure, no non-kosher milk was mixed inside because non-kosher milk is not curd. A Jew watched the cheese making process. There's nothing to be concerned about.
so what if Jew watching it and they, please, like, but they're not familiar with the cheese making process.
You have to know what you're doing.
Like, you can't just get any.
A mashgiach has to be trained. That's where you're going to get into the quality of the hashgacha. You have to obviously get somebody who's a Yiras Shamayim, but you also have to tell them. It's like you're not going to give somebody a job to operate a piece of machinery, even though they're very responsible, if they don't know what they're doing. You don't take a responsible person who never had any driving lessons and tell them, go drive to California. It's not responsible. In a case of great loss, this was allowed. So there's a little bit of slight leeway in a case of duress, but so some opinions say it's only allowed if a mistake happened, but not to do so, from the onset. The proper way to do this, as I said earlier, and then I have to leave in a minute from then, is for the Jews to buy the rennet, and then for the Jew to put in the rennet, and the only time the Jew would not put in the rennet would be on Shabbos for Yom Tov. As I said, the mashgichim do live in the factories. You're not allowed to put rennet in milk on Shabbos and Yom Tov because that's an act of building. Why not? Like you're taking liquid, making it into a solid substance. So then they would rely on the opinion that says just watching is enough. But again, having only the rennet, so you have another support there. Yeah.
Like, with the one you just said, what okay, that like in the case of difficult situation, would you have to ask around that, like, if the situation.
Make sure it qualifies. Yeah, a difficult situation usually means where it's inherently difficult on its own. We don't create it then. So we're not going to say, oh yeah, I'm not going to bother. No, it should be inherently difficult, and then we have to see, all that. So that's the generally speaking how it's looked at. I'm just going to do one more halacha with Divrei Hamati, which is going to Rav Moshe. Chalav Nachli b'Mitzenu. Commission is very Rav Moshe will allow milk from our in the country today, in America, but after Gam Dvar wrote the Baal Nefesh Machmir, even though he said a Baal Nefesh should be stringent, the Kamaklaim, Koshav, Shabbat Zusha, Yisrael Necha, Beis HaChavim Siyasa, with the Jew is there, when at the time of the milking, Gam Baal Nefesh and Tzorch Machmir, it's enough for him to watch it from the time of the making of the cheese, if they're going to actually make it, if the intention of the milking was to make it cheese. But again, as Hasidim, we're not lenient in that regard. We would require that the milking of this milk, and of course the actual making of the cheese, would be done with a mashgiach v'nidi. I'm sorry I have to run. If anybody has any questions, feel free to, you can ask me next week. Okay, well, next week we'll finish this halacha. We're going to get into the laws of Ibn Caleb. Good job.
I don't know. Okay. Fine. I'm trying to really like to respond to it. Sure, I think it's what you did. I'm so happy I really want to see it. No, I really see it. It's like, I really didn't notice it. I only knew it. Until I thought it was just before. I kind of thought it was like, oh, okay, like, and we were talking about it, but like it didn't look like it. Just what you said. I think I need to. No one knows, it didn't look like, I think compared to how you naturally look, yeah, but like, I definitely really. How did there? I really. Think it's what I did. Okay, yeah, exactly. Also, it's gone down. Like, yeah, I always saw it a lot. Like, I looked at the video when she sent it to my mom and she goes. Yeah, I was trying to say, and I was like, you look so different now. And I was like, 2 months ago or whatever. I was like, 6 months ago. How do you get here every day? You drive? Take the subway?
Sometimes I take the car, sometimes I take the subway.
Nice.
It just depends on.
You
what
went
the
to Saturday
traffic looks
before?
like.
Oh,
Yeah, my third time.
wow, where did you go?
I went to Neve in Jerusalem
I went there, nice.
when I was in college, and then I went to Nahon Alta a couple years ago.
Oh, so cool.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
So you went there for a year, now you're here for a year?
I went to London for 6 weeks and then what happened by me.
Gotcha. Your parents wanted you to,
Not being in it.
yeah,
They were like, no.
I get it. Actually, that happened to a bunch of my friends.
Yeah. For Loka?
No,
I was like, oh, I don't know that then.
no, just in general. When did you start here?
Maybe I'm looking for it. Are you coming on the farm trip?
Yeah, no, my friend, you meet Mira, science club, she was studying at Neve for a month, and then war happened, and she finished 2 months here.
Last year?
Yeah. This year, November 23. Like right after October. Yeah.
Are you sure? Did she have one?
No, it's right here. She recommended it. So what do we have now? We have the next class at 10:30.
Yeah.
Actually, it's 10:30. Actually, it's 10:30.
Remind me of it?
I yell it.
CC
Rua.
Yeah, yeah. Upper West Side?
Upper East.
Upper East, okay, now. Oh, do you go to the Blood House there?
Yes.
Do you know, Fix the Wolf?
Yes, she came here. She
Oh, yeah,
she
I love
recommended
her.
this
Oh my
place.
gosh.
Yes.
We were in person while she was here.
You what?
We learned together while she was here.
Oh, that's so nice.
We're supposed to meet up, like,
Tentative plans speed up on a Sunday, I learned, so. Oh, we should join one of these Sundays. But yeah, she invited me to come for Shabbos and I really want
You
to.
totally should.
Yeah.
Come uptown, so we can meet you.
Yeah, I know it seems so nice. Okay, great. I know who booked you guys. So, do you know, Philippa Chown, or now she's Philippa Stone? Philippa.
No,
She, okay, she my friend from college. I think she used to go, but I don't know.
where'd you go to college?
McGill.
Oh, nice. And you're from Texas.
Yeah.
McGill was great school. What did you study?
Political science.
Okay.
My family's Canadian, so they went there, so.
Yeah. So you, so now you finished college and now you're.
Yeah, I finished undergrad, sorry.
You learned for a year.
Yeah, I started in September, and I applied to law school for next year, so that's my plan right now. Yeah. Also, I was in my note last year, you know? Yeah, so I just took the chapter. Ah, okay, nice.
And when did it?
Okay, nice.
And I was
there
supposed
for
to
a
go to
year.
Maya Note.
Yeah,
I'm supposed to be in Maya Note now.
oh, yeah,
And there's a change of plans because my husband and I have to move to London.
oh my god.
No, we're moving to London next Sunday because we have to go.
Next Sunday?
Wait, for a month.
Oh, okay, that's really.
No, for a month, and it interfered with the, learn at Mahona, all pepper. Sorry, I was learning at Maya Note for 2 weeks.
Oh, okay, nice to hear though,
Where
yeah.
are you moving to? We'll be in Clare and well. Where is that?
But it's for his work?
I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. They're giving us corporate housing based on it's probably.
Oh, makes sense, so it's
It's
what is Greenwich?
We both work in finance.
Oh, nice. Or you study for it.
Probably pronouncing it wrong, so, I love this pop. This is our pop. It is.
Oh my gosh,
Everyone
yeah.
is obsessed with this pop.
I know I like that, she's
Like
like
initiate
initiating
for
that
that
one.
I have three colors.
I have one in beige and then I have one in black.
Oh, yeah, I forgot you got it.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Oh, Clerkenwell. This area, Clerkenwell?
I don't think so, yeah, right, what is it now? I wonder if I wearing one of those, are you getting contact with the Kabbalah guy?
Yeah, we talked, the closest one is pointed up out of Belgravia.
Oh, yeah, the rabbi, I mean, I've never met him, but I have heard that he's great. So that's great. If you want to get my notes, if you need anything, my rabbi is like my rabbi and Edgar is like the biggest help ever, like. He's just phenomenal, and if you need anything, reach out, like, post or anything.
Oh, thank you, yes, there you go. I mean, we may not even be, I mean, we're gonna try on. We are gonna try to fly to Israel for one Shabbos.
Oh,
It's only a 4-hour flight.
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah.
And then we're gonna try to fly to Madrid another Shabbos and like to Paris another, we're gonna try to like go away. 'Cause, like,
Yeah.
we're already in London and I'll be there the whole week, so it'll be fun to just kind of like explore.
Are you both working in London or just?
No, it actually, the timing worked out, I'm in between jobs.
Oh,
I'm in
nice.
between
Oh,
jobs.
wow.
So
That's
just
so
enjoy London. March 17th, that's why I like planned the Israel trip and then this thing happened and.
So you're doing a couple of Zoom.
Oh my gosh, yeah, you totally could do that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the time difference is a bit crazy.
Oh,
Fine. Actually, if you could help with, there's like a Jewish women's like learning program like this in London. Because it was, yeah, very fun to get in, because I wanna, because for me, I have to learn in person, it's like hard to.
yeah, no, I.
Focus over Zoom, because
I
you get
never
so
learned.
distracted
I
with so
never
many
learned.
things.
I did take over the grade. Have you heard of it?
Yes, I have.
So all the learning classes I know are obviously gonna be like in sort of green, which might be a bit of a shock to you, but if
That's
that's fine,
fine.
make the commute, then I.
It's like 40 minutes on the tube or whatever, it's
Yeah.
fine.
Also, yeah, anywhere on the northern line, and you can get right there so quickly.
I'm fine with that. I see the London School of Jewish Studies, that's in Golden Green, and also the.
Yeah, well, if no one else can.
So where, where you're going to law school yet? Have you taken your LSAT? or-
Yeah, I took my LSAT in November and I applied only to New York schools, basically everywhere but NYU and Columbia. I applied to like Cardozo where I really want to go, and my friend's husband goes, I want to stay in town, like commute. My friend's husband goes, it's like, I'm gonna commute, like,
Yeah, my best friend was a friend.
Oh, okay, did you like it? Okay.
You would text me and WhatsApp me and then see I'll send you, right?
Perfect, I love that.
But yeah, I've went kind of the like Brooklyn, Hawthorne. I just got my first acceptance, and I've already got to New York often, and like.
Yeah, she got accepted there too. Did you get like a?
I got a full scholarship, yeah.
My friend got a full scholarship to New York Law School.
Yeah.
And then she got a very partial scholarship to Cardinal. Cardinal is obviously the better. school.
Yeah,
She could
no,
get
it's
there.
well, that's so awesome. Would you know by chance about that?
How was yours?
I got 165, which is like, it's above the.
Oh, 155 is good. Yeah.
It's above the median, but like my GPA is on the lower end, but people are like, everything else is more. Because yeah, I definitely wanna go to Cardinal, so like they have to do something.
Machine?
Yes, I did.
It's not a machine, it's just, you'll see it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
No, like that. I know, like, I don't really wanna go to New York Law School, but like, it's so epic, to like, live, I'm like, shoot, I need to get like a somewhat decent scholarship to make it like, not,
Yeah, what's like, what do you wanna do?
yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't wanna go to corporate college.
Oh, yeah, you wanna work at a white glove law firm,
White glove,
that's what they call it.
and sometimes I learn that word that means, like,
White glove law firm,
white.
white glove law firm, is like high quality corporate law firm.
Yeah,
Then you probably need to go to like a more prestigious university,
Yeah.
like if you wanna work in government. Like my friend, she could have gone to New York Law, but she ended up going, working as a juvenile prosecutor, working in government. And so she like, doesn't really make that much,
yeah,
and, it's hard to pay off.
another day.
You gotta like, think about, you know, how much you're gonna be making out of school and whether it's worth it.
Wait,
Yeah.
did you just say that you're enrolled? No, you're
Not my
fine.
friend.
But I just literally just was like Jewish woman enrolled.
Oh, it's so funny.
Um,
Oh, so did you grow up a lot?
yeah, I grew up like conservative, like, we grew up to show like this kind of stuff.
I don't know if it's a London thing, but I'm thinking.
And then, like, basically, I could go more into it later, but the short story is I went to college, and then I like connected with the law on campus. And I started like job open going on campus, and then I graduated and I was like, what I'm gonna do next year, like, I had like an econ, like,